Let us see the next question. On 1st of July 2018, during the initial offer of some mutual fund, Mr. X invested in 10,000 units having face value of rupees 10 rupees each. On 31st of March 2019, the dividend operated by the mutual fund was 10%. Mr. X found that his annualized yield was 153.33%. On 31st of December 2020, 20% dividend was given. On 31st of March 2021, Mr. X redeemed all his balance units 11,296.11, and at that point of time annualized yield was 73.52%. What are the net asset value on per unit basis on 31st of March 19, 31st of December 20 and 31st of March 21? That is a question. I request all of you to go through the question, please. Friends, first of all, I am writing only the basic details about the information of the question. Everybody is requested to pay attention. This is only for understanding purpose. The question is providing the information that on 1st of July 2018, the initial investment was made, that is saying the initial offer of some mutual fund. So amount, net asset value per unit. Units allotted. The question is providing the information that 10,000 number of units were allotted. The face value is given 10 rupees. So the amount of investment is given an amount of rupees 1 lakh. How this 1 lakh is calculated? It is 10,000 number of units into 10 rupees per unit. That is the way it comes to an amount of 1 lakh rupee of the investment. So the balance is 10,000. I am preparing one more column, so that is the dividend and yield. Friends, over here the question is providing the information that during the initial offer of some mutual fund, Mr. X invested in 10,000 number of units having face value of rupees 10 for each unit. The question is silent about the rate at which the investment is made. So we are making an assumption it must be 10 rupees per unit. The question is providing the information that on 31st of March 2019, dividend operated by the mutual fund was 10%. So here 10%. And Mr. X found that his annualized yield was 153.33%. So actually the investor did not sell the investment. However, he just made the computation of the annualized yield and he found that considering the NAV prevailing on that date, his return was 153.33%. On 31st of March 20, 20% dividend was given. So at that point of time, information is given that 20% dividend was given. Okay. 31st of March 21. Mr. X redeemed all his balance 11,296 units. So on that date, the number of units that say it was there in the balance was 11,296.11. and his annualized yield was 73.52. At that point of time, the annualized yield 73.52 percentage. The question is providing the information that say you are required to compute the NAV per unit on this date, on this date, and on this date. So for these three dates, we are required to compute the NAV per unit. That is the question. Looking to the information of the question, we can have very well understanding that say initially 10,000 number of units were allotted. Later on, dividend was paid to the investor, again dividend, and you can see that at the time of final redemption, the number of units have increased from 10,000 to 11,296.11. So the investment must have been made in dividend reinvestment plan. That is the way, so we are required to understand the investment must have been made in dividend reinvestment plan. This is what we understand. This is the basic information only for purpose of understanding. Still, I request all of you to write down this table. So write down a note for the answer. First point, in this question, comma, information is given that initially investor was allotted 10,000 units. Full stop. After that, dividend declared by mutual fund. Full stop. Next, finally, redemption units were more than 10,000 units initially allotted. Full stop. So we understand that investment is made in dividend reinvestment plan. Full stop. Third point, on 31st of March 2019, investor found that his annualized yield was 153.33 percentage, comma, however, at that time investor has not redeemed the investment. full stop. This is what we understand. So now first heading, calculation of net asset value per unit on 31st of March 2019. That is what we are going to calculate first of all. I want you to do this answer and put your answer in the chat box. So let us have understanding that say how to make the computation of the NAV per unit as on 31st of March 2019. It's very simple, dear students. The rate of dividend is provided to us as 10%. The face value is 10 rupees itself. So kindly use your calculator. Number of units that you are holding 10,000. Face value per unit is 10, so it comes to 1 lakh. 1 lakh into 10%, that comes to 10,000. So that is the way the amount of the dividend can be calculated, 10,000 rupees. So write down answer along with me. Working note number 1, calculation of amount of dividend. It can be calculated as face value of investment into rate of dividend. Face value of the investment is 10,000 into 10, that is 1 lakh, into 10%. 1 lakh into 10%, that comes to 10,000. Because separate working note is required to be prepared, of course, because the above working is only for understanding. Then method number 1. In that, say, doing a simple working like this. Calculation of NAV per unit. Let us set an X variable to it. Return is equal to income upon investment into 12 divided by N into 100. This is the way we are required to apply the formula. What is the return, friends? Return is 153.33%. So over here, 153.33%. Income is 10,000 rupees of the dividend plus 10,000 number of units which you are holding. Let us assume that it has NAV of rupees X per unit, minus 1 lakh rupee, that is like the investment which you had made, divided by 1 lakh into 12 divided by N. N is the number of months. We understand that so the investment was made on 1st of July 2018 and the date on which you are computing the return is 31st of March 2019. So the time period is 9 months. That is 6 months of 2018 and 3 months of 2019. Into 100 for getting answer in percentage term, because this is in percentage term. Now X will be found as balancing figure. So I'm keeping it over here. Rest everything will be transferred over there. So it is rupees 10,000 plus 10,000 X minus, when you open the bracket, this is negative, this is positive, so it will remain negative, is equal to, remaining things are transferred on the left hand side. So it is 153.33 divided by 100 into 9 divided by 12. Okay, so again you can understand that say we are required to make this calculation. So it is 10,000 into X is equal to, please use your calculator, 153.33 into 9 divided by 12 divided by 100. That comes to 1.15 approximately. So here it is 10,000 x minus 90,000 is equal to 1.15. Oh, sorry, I forgot to multiply this 1 lakh. Okay, this 1 lakh is supposed to be multiplied. So 153.33 into 9 into 1 lakh. Okay, this is 1 lakh. Divided by 100 divided by 12. That comes to 1,14,997.50. So x is equal to, this 90,000 is transferred and it will become positive. 114,997.5 plus 90,000 whole divided by 10,000. And the answer is 20.449,975. So we can keep it 20.5 rupees per unit. This is the way we can make the computation of the NAV per unit, that is 20 rupees 50 paise. Method number 2. Now the same answer can be done with the other method also. Let us see, let's say how we can do it. It is again the return is equal to income upon investment into 12 divided by n into 100. This is the way we have the formula. Return is 153.33. The income is, listen carefully what I am going to do. Rupees 10,000 is the dividend. Yes. Divided by x, that is NAV per unit. So this is the number of units allotted to the investor. Yes. Plus initially it was x number of units that were allotted to you. Yes. So sorry, initially 10,000 number of units were allotted to you. Yes. So this is the total number of units that you have. 10,000 is the dividend amount divided by NAV per unit. So this will give us answer of the number of units allotted to the investor plus 10,000. So that will give us, so the total number of units into x, that is the value of the unit at the end of the period, that is at the end of the 9 months when you are making computation of the return, minus 1 lakh whole divided by 1 lakh into 12 divided by n, that is 9 months. We have already understood how 9 is calculated, into 100, that is 6 months of the year 2018 and 3 months of the year 2019. Now we will solve this equation to compute the value of x. So over here we understand that 153.33 into 1 lakh into 9 divided by 12 into 100 is equal to, we understand that, say when you open this bracket, this 10,000 will be as it is, this x and this x will be cancelled, plus 10,000 x, that is multiplication of this two value, minus 1 lakh. This is the way we are required to make the computation of answer. So 153.33 into 1 lakh into 9 upon 1200. So again the same answer, 1,14,997.5 is equal to, difference of this two is negative 90,000. It is transferred on the opposite side, so it will become positive. 114,997.5 plus 90,000. So 2,04,997.5 whole divided by 10,000. That comes to rupees 20.5. This is the way the NAV per unit can be calculated. Of course, we'll prepare one more working note regarding the number of units allotted to the investor at that point of time. So now is calculation of units allotted to investor. Dear students, many a times I come across to a question that, sir, when we are computing the dividend, are we supposed to make it n divided by 12? The answer is no. Amount of the dividend will be computed as the face value into rate of dividend. Okay, number of units is dividend divided by NAV per unit. What is the dividend amount? It is an amount of 10,000. What is NAV per unit? NAV per unit is 20.5. So what is final answer? 478.80. Friends, practically the units are allotted up to 5 decimals. However, we do not have to go up to 5 decimals. We can do answer up to 2 decimals. That is absolutely acceptable from examination point of view. So this is 20 rupee 50 paise. Okay. This is units allotted 487.80. Simultaneously update this table also, because in your revision this will help you to understand the entire answer. 487.80. This is what we understand. Again, I request all of you to write in the chat box that what is the NAV per unit on this date. Please write that in your chat box. Friends, sorry, it is 487.82. Okay. Next, the question is providing the information that you are required to compute the NAV per unit on 31st of March 2020. You can see that the rate of dividend is given. So I request all of you to use your calculator to compute the amount of dividend. See, the number of units that we are holding is 10,487.80. This is the number of units that you are holding. Into 10, that is the face value. Into 20 percentage. Means 2 rupees is what, say, you get the dividend. So that comes to 20,975.61. 20,975.60. That is the amount of the dividend. Okay. What is NAV per unit? We do not know. So can we have the number of units? No. Can we have the balance? No. Do we have a return? No. So basically we are stuck up at this point of time. No problem. Let us see the information further that they have given. On 31st of March 2021, the question is providing the information that you have redeemed all number of units. Whether at that point of time any dividend was given on 31st of March 2021, write in the chat box please. We understand that say no information is given to us with respect to the payment of dividend. So we assume that say no dividend has been paid at that point of time. This is what we understand. Okay. So can we say that say this 11,000 now, that is 296.11 is the number of units that the investor must be having on this date only? 11,296.11, because no additional units were allotted later on. So can we say that say this number of units the investor would have on this date only? See, At this point of time, on 31st of March 19, the investor had 10,487.80 units. On this date, after the dividend declared by the mutual fund, investor had this number of units. So please compute the difference between both of them. 11,296.11 minus 10,487.8, that comes to 808.31. This is what's the number of units allotted. 11,296.11 minus 10,487.80. Okay. Now finally you can compute the rate of, that is the NAV, because this is the dividend amount. Yes. This is the number of units allotted. Yes. So we can make the computation of the NAV per unit. So please use your calculator. 20975.60 upon 808.31, that comes to 25.95. This is the way we are supposed to make the computation of the NAV per unit. So let us answer. Calculation of NAV per unit on 31st of March 2020. In that write down, working note number 1, calculation of amount of dividend. It will be calculated as face value of investment into rate of dividend. So 10,000 number of units were allotted initially, plus 487.8 into 10 into 20%. So 10,487.80 into rupees 2. So with that, so the answer is rupees 20,975.6. That is the amount of dividend. Now I am dictating a note to you. However, that note is not supposed to be written in examination. This is only for understanding purpose. We can observe that on 31st of March 2021, 11,296.11 units were redeemed. Full stop. It is more than 10,487.80 units. Full stop. Further in that write down, we know that no dividend was paid on 31st of March 2021. So difference between 11,296.11 and 10,487.8 units must be units allotted on 31st of December 2020. Full stop. Accordingly, we have to compute NAV per unit. Full stop. So in the breakdown, calculation of NAV per unit. So amount of dividend divided by units allotted. That is 20,000 975.6 upon 11,296.11 minus 10,487.8. So difference of that comes to 808.31. So 2097.56 upon 808.31. So 25.95 rupees per unit. That is the way the NAV per unit can be calculated. I request you to update this table and afterwards make calculation of this answer and again put your answer in the chat box. Let a new heading, calculation of net asset value per unit on 31st of March 2021. So let us see how to calculate the answer. Working note number 1, calculation of number of months. Year 2018, 2019, 2020 and 2021. Number of months, 6 months of 18, 12 months and 3 months of 21. That is the way we will compute the total. 6 plus 12 plus 12 plus 3, that comes to 33 months. That is the time period of holding investment. Once we compute the time period of holding investment, afterwards we will compute the NAV. Calculation of net asset value per unit. In that, return is equal to income upon investment into 100 into 12 divided by n into 100. Okay. What is the return? The return is 73.52%. Income is like 11,296.11 number of units are redeemed at the rate of X. Minus investment was made 1 lakh divided by again 1 lakh into 12 divided by 3, that is say 33 into 100 for getting answer in percentage term. So now we understand that, say, keeping this over here, the remaining things are transferred on the opposite side. 11,296.11x minus 1 lakh is equal to 73.52 into 1 lakh into 33 upon 12 into 100. 11,296.11 x is equal to, use a calculator, 73.52 into 1 lakh into 33 upon 1200, 2 lakh 2,180 plus 1 lakh. So x is equal to 3 lakh 2,180, yes, upon 11,296.11, yes. So the final answer is 26.75. This is the way we are required to find the answer. So over here NAV per unit is 26.75. This is the way finally, so we have completed all answers. Now I have a question to all of you, that in order to compute the NAV per unit on 31st of March 2019, I shown you two methods, method number 1 and method number 2. In computation of the 31st of March 2021 NAV, I have shown you only this method. So just I want to know from you that, say, in order to compute the NAV per unit on 31st of March 2021, can we adopt the method number 1? That is a question that I have to one of you. The answer is no, we cannot. Why we cannot adopt the method number 1, sir? The answer for that is very simple. See, the amount of the dividend which you have received on these two dates, this amount of the dividend is basically reinvested. So when you make the reinvestment, at that time NAV was this much, NAV was this. Now this NAV is different. That is the reason, say, whenever you are making the computation of the return or you are making some other calculation, say after the first time the dividend has already been reinvested, you cannot go with the first method. As far as the 31st of March 2019 is concerned, so that was the very first time the dividend was declared. That is the reason, so we can have the application of either of the method. My suggestion to all the students is always follow the method number 2. So whether it is the first time dividend or it is the later time dividend, you can always follow the second method. Basically we understand that, say, this 73.52% of the return is considering the reinvestment of this dividend. So basically we are required to consider, say, the change in the value for this number of units also. We are required to consider the change in the value for this number of units also, because these units are supposed to be valued at this rate, not at this rate. These units are supposed to be valued at this rate and not at this rate. So we cannot go with the first method for the purpose of making calculation any time after the first, that is the first time the dividend paid to the investor. So that one final answer. In that, say, a note, in order to compute NAV per unit on 31st of March 2021, comma, we can use only one method, full stop. We cannot use other method because In that case, revaluation of dividend effect will not be considered. Full stop. This is what we understand. So the final summary of the entire answer. Basically, we have been provided with a date 1st of July 2018. At that point of time, investment is made for an amount of 1 lakh rupee. Face value is 10, and that is the price at which the investment is made, and 10,000 number of units were allotted. There are three additional dates provided to us. One of the date on which the investor only computed the dividend, only computed the rate at which he has received the return. Second date on which say he received the dividend apart from receiving the dividend for the first time. And third, only the return information is given. We are required to make the computation of the NAV per unit on these three different dates. For the first time, you can do answer by two methods. For the second time, so you are required to compute the difference of the units, and with that the NAV is found. And for the third one, so we have one method for doing answer. This is the way we have made the computation of this answer.